So I want to document with Thomas Franks, he's an environmental activist, has been really mobilizing a lot of people here on this issue. So we are right now outside the Superfund site. So most of America does not live in a Superfund site. The reason we came outside the Superfund site is if we find, I mean, I'm hoping in all these homes we find nothing. I don't want people to have anything bad in their homes. But if we find outside the Superfund site problems, then the question lies, well, who the hell knows, wherever you live in these industrialized areas, you know, the EPA, other agencies are seem to only focus on these Superfund sites, rightly so, but if there's problems here at a century-old home, well, don't they need to test every home? Am I getting anything wrong? What do you think if we find issues in homes like this outside of the emergency zone?
Right. One thing we're realizing is the Superfund is a symptom of a cause, and the cause is much broader. And if you take a toxic tour here, you'll see there's industrial infrastructure that's huge and old and fallen apart. And that is also with our water infrastructure. So that water infrastructure extends beyond the Superfund sites throughout the whole city. So it's a citywide issue.
Mm-hmm. And we were trying to get to the bottom of it, so I looked into that quote. Del Toro, the EPA, said it's possible that 90% of the city is on lead lines. I don't know if he's talking about the service lines or he's talking about the home lines.
I think he's mostly focusing on the home lines. The city is arguing that their service lines are up to date, but now they're backtracking on some of that, and I believe that's probably the case. As you know, this street has been replaced recently, but it's not. There is many of the streets that haven't.
It's like Donald Trump's taxes. Show us the lines.
Yes.
You know, how do we know they're up to date?
And especially in some of the older neighborhoods. We have several other older neighborhoods like New Addition and Marktown and North Harbor, where that infrastructure just simply hasn't been addressed for decades and decades and has been allowed to crumble.
I want to get to a point, and this is not something I would ask Scott, but I think we got to focus on what's actually happening here, because in Indiana, and I hate to clobber the vice president, but got to keep it real. There was money to give $1 million in tax breaks to companies so they could offshore jobs. There was money to give his donors millions of dollars in tax breaks, but there never seems to be money to fix infrastructure, whether it's lead, whatever it is. There never seems to be money to do thorough testing. So it doesn't seem to me that there's lack of money. It seems like there's choices being made and there's different priorities.
Right, and they have this market mechanism where they service the highest classes first, and then that's what trickle down is. And so it's been like 40 years since we've seen this industrial depression, and we haven't seen any benefits in 40 years here. And things have continued to deteriorate. The only options we get are other industrial projects. We get waste to energy projects here, which are another contaminant and major polluter. We struggle to be able to let me give you an example. Our biggest employer in East Chicago now, it used to be steel. We used to have 70,000 jobs in steel and steel related jobs. Today we only have about 2,500, but steel production is way up, exponentially almost. Our biggest employer today is a casino. And that's a service industry, and it doesn't serve this community very well. And that's our best industry here right now. And that's where we struggle.
And I want to also get to the point, so across the street was a carbon plant?
Union Carbide.
Oh, Union Carbide. Yeah, they're Union Carbide. If you know Union Carbide in the Bhopal accident, they do industrial gases that they sell off to the industries. So in the 1980s, they had a release in Bhopal, India, 11,000 people didn't wake up one day. They've never paid out, nothing's ever done. Here they've renamed themselves Praxair. So we have several Praxair facilities in East Chicago that service the industries.
So why I brought that up is Wanda was saying, yeah, they cleaned it up. But that often when they say we cleaned it up, kind of means, yeah, we moved a few things around, but are most of these things fully cleaned?
So when they say they cleaned it up, that means they spent a couple $1 million. But when a polluter pollutes, there are all these cascading effects, and they aren't covering their full cost. If I drop an item in a store, I have to pay in full. here on the land and in the community, industries have been able to walk away. They've caused thousands of people millions of dollars, and it's hard to put any monetary cost on it, but damage to their bodies, their souls, their neighborhood, their land, their air, the water that they breathe. Each, millions each. But if they were to pay out $1 million to each one of those residents, that's well over $1 billion. That's several tens of billions of dollars that are lost just for those owners of those industries at that time to accumulate profits to themselves and walk away. They've left billions of dollars of costs in communities like this.